Tom Fornelli, who we like a lot, wrote about the top quarterbacks in the quarterback power rankings. Let's start with, should Nico Iamaleava even be included in this list, considering he just has one game under his belt and garbage duty for the most part?
Okay. This is the power ranking, guys. And for those of you who know, power rankings are based how you're playing at the moment and what Vegas would put money on. So
power rankings are also the way to say I'm ranking the best quarterbacks, but you don't really have to judge me on it 2 months from now.
Yes, exactly. But this is a power. Yes, I agree. But okay, this is Tom Fornelli's power ranking of the top 10 quarterbacks. I get it. He's doing a power ranking, so he's basing it off more than just a bowl game. But a power ranking should be really based on how you think Vegas would rate these quarterbacks right now. Okay. Do you think Vegas would have Nico Iamaleava outside of their top 10 right now?
No.
Nico should have been in the top 10. I get it. I'm not knocking Tom Fornelli. He's going with players who started all of last year. But if you're doing a true power ranking, Vegas has the most financial interest on a week-to-week basis over who's going to play better. They would not take 10 quarterbacks over Nico right now.
No. Okay, let's take a look at the list. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen here, the power ranking list that we'll start with. Up at the top is no great surprise. Georgia, as Carson Beck, that's going to be the top of a lot of these lists. So you can see the list up there right now, Caleb?
You still got to scroll down. Here we go. All right, now I see it.
All right, gotcha. All right, Carson Beck's number one. That's no great surprise. It's tough for me to say that Nico would be better than Carson Beck at any point, but he could be. It's just tough for me to say that now because I think Beck is really good. I want to go through the top 5 of these. By the way, Nico did get mentioned as far as watching in the spring, but with Carson Beck, what do you think of my assessment? Nico could be better, but let's wait and see because I think Beck's pretty special.
Yeah, this is a power ranking, and Vegas would never put Nico ahead of Carson Beck right now. There's no if Nico and Carson Beck were playing head-to-head with the exact same team surrounding them, there's not a chance in hell that Vegas isn't going to favor Carson Beck.
Agreed. Quinn Ewers, same thing, although when we talk about talent, I think Nico will be a better quarterback long-term than Ewers.
I agree. He will. I get Quinn Ewers right now. I think it's trickier than you think because I think the Big 12 was just bad last year on defense, and I think Quinn Ewers really inflated his stats playing in the Big 12.
I think Nico's a lot better. So I think we're on the same page. Yeah, no, I agree with you about the Big 12. That's totally the same. And then Noah Fifida, I hope I pronounced that right, of Arizona, Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. So I want to address those two in particular. I think that those two quarterbacks will not even be comparable to Nico Iamaleava in 3 to 5 years.
You're probably right, although Jackson Dart did have a heck of a year in 2023. Noah Fifida had a good year, but with Jed Fish gone, I can't imagine him having the same year.
Now, just to show you that I'm not a homer here, I do really like Shedeur Sanders, who they have at number 5, who Tom Fornelli has at number 5. I really like him, and I would have trouble putting Nico over him in the short term, and I don't know about long term as well. But I really do like him.
No, I'm absolutely with you with Shedeur Sanders. That was the worst offensive line I've ever seen a quarterback play with last year at the Power 5 level, what Shedeur was dealing with. And I can't sit there and say that. I mean, I think you and I both agree. Guys, last year, if you guys don't remember, Dave and I both watched the USC Colorado game. USC won, and we both walked away saying Shedeur Sanders is a better prospect than Caleb Williams. I mean, he just is.
I so. Yeah, and I've heard Caleb Williams talked about it being this generational prospect. He can't run RPOs, which they ran 75% of the time in college. Has anybody told him that? Told his agent that, or I'm just wondering.
No, that's a good question. You're right.
I mean, they're not nearly as effective. You can run them; they don't really work. Sports Treasures, they always work because they carry over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Right down below, you got the daily updates, which are phenomenal. Sports Treasures TN, Sports Treasures TN. Follow them on Facebook. and get the latest updates. So let me throw some other names at you really quick, and any that stand out that you say to yourself, oh man, he's better or way worse than Nico. Riley Leonard at Notre Dame, Will Howard, Ohio State, Kyron Drones, Virginia Tech, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. He could have a big year after the transfer. And then they got Jalen Milroe at number 10. Well, that's pretty woeful. Out of that group, I don't have any strong feelings other than I think Dylan Gabriel will put up crazy good numbers. So if there actually is a Heisman race that Nico's involved in, I think he'll be tough to overcome.
Yeah, playing with Oregon will be different. I'm really angry about the Riley Leonard at number 6. I don't know where that's coming from. Riley Leonard was hurt last year playing for Duke, and he completed 58% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The year before he started, he only had 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions and didn't throw for even 3,000 yards. Now, he did run for 700, so he's a very mobile quarterback, but how do you see that, him going to Notre Dame, which is going to be a ball control offense, and say he's going to be better than I put Nico ahead of him right now. I do have a big problem with Riley Leonard. And Will Howard, I mean, again, this strikes me as another Kyle McCord at Ohio State. I don't think he's cut out to run that offense. And with Chip Kelly, look, I think you could see a collapse of Ohio State this year, quite honestly. I think you can see him get derailed.
Hey, what happens if Ohio State and Alabama both collapse in the same within a year of each other, calendar year? Because you and I both think that Ryan Day is not the answer. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat. I'm not willing to go there, but it's got to be getting warmer. It helps that Jim Harbaugh left Michigan. But how different would college football be if Ohio State and Alabama were what they used to be, which was good, but not great? Well, Alabama was horrible at one point.
Yeah, that is. The only time I could ever think that they would be like that I don't know of a time that they've both been bad. The only time I can think they both just haven't been great is when it was in the post-Bear Bryant years where Earl Bruce was at Ohio State, who was an arrogant you-know-what, and for those who don't know, fired Nick Saban because he refused to accept the fact that he needed to speed up his defense. And the post-Bear Bryant coaches at Alabama. But during that time, even like those schools were like 8, 9, 10 win teams. They just weren't like what you expect. Like Ohio State is a school like, again, you can sleep your way to 11 wins. John Cooper was regularly 11-1 at Ohio State.
From Powell High School. When you talk about
I don't mean sleep your way to 11 wins the way I think literally go to sleep and win 11 games, guys. By the way.
Fine. You're not talking about Jim Bob Cooter. The snuggler, the great snuggler of what was that, 2002, whatever year that was. Everybody likes a good snuggle. You just like to know who it is that's snuggling you. Show
You do.
That's right. Otherwise, it's a felony. Show represented by Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones, nice enough to join us from time to time. Also, when I look at both programs, which one would be the easier to resurrect? I think it's Ohio State because you don't have Harbaugh now. And if you're Alabama, let's say they both bottom out in the next 2 or 3 years. The easier to resurrect to me is Ohio State, not Alabama, because Ohio State has better in-state talent. They feel like they're going to have a lot of money for that TV contract. I don't think that Alabama has the natural in-state innate advantage that other schools do, like Georgia. I don't think there's that great talent in the state of Alabama.
Ohio State's the second best job in America.
And who'd you have at first?
LSU. LSU is the easiest job in America. They've won national titles with Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. So that's all I need to do to tell you that's the easiest job in America. Ohio State's the second best job in America, though, because the way I break down now, guys, NIL does change all this. I'll concede. It's hard for me to really do this type of ranking this early in the NIL era because, Dave, you agree, right? We don't know how it's going to play out and how much of an advantage it's going to go from powerhouse team to powerhouse team. But when you factor in locational advantage and competition for talent, the only reason Ohio State's not number one is I think Michigan and Penn State and even Tennessee, I think other Big Ten schools are able to get into Ohio and pluck some talent out, whereas nobody goes into Louisiana and plucks out talent. That, very, very few players get plucked out of Louisiana.
No, you're right. And I've often said that is Ohio State and LSU have that in common. They are the two schools that if they want you in state, you're probably going to stick there. Those are really, really tough programs to tussle with. I'd rather go against Miami and Dade County. I'd rather go against the University of Texas in the Lone Star State. There are a lot of places I'd rather face than the Tigers or the Buckeyes in their respective states.